Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Moss. I'm the network engineer here at the IRS. I'm working in the NMCC, which is the Network Management Control Center. What I wanted to introduce, we actually have some different tools that we use here. And as you can see, the tools that we're actually using here is HP Operations Manager, Network Node Manager, and Kazam, which our Kazam is actually Service Manager. So these are the kind of things that we've actually drawn from what we wanted to send out using the HP OpenView the users group and have an understanding of what we're actually using. So one of the things that we've made sure that as within the IRS, what do we need to get the alerts out to the end users? So here's the process. We have to start with the HP OpenView, which is the network node manager, then the operations manager. That actually sends it over to another product that we're actually using for the alerts, which is Derdack. As you probably already heard, a few engineers from Derdack. So these are the engineers that helped us within the IRS to get this up and running. So I just wanted to explain a few things of how we actually did that and came across within the system. So with that being said, so we've actually introduced a lot of the different alerts and how these alerts are coming across. So as we've actually decided how they're going to be coming across, there's two different areas that we were actually sending it across. We needed to send it through voice. We needed to actually send it also through an email. So the other part that we actually made sure that we actually had is how are these coming across and what are the best ways that we can get these to the end user where they're actually going to understand and get an understanding of how these are coming to them. Because one, as most people understand, that you don't want the end users to get numerous amount of emails where they're not going to look at it. Because what happens is people won't look at it when it really matters, and then it's going to be more of an issue. So with that being said, so we've decided to consolidate and understand of what is there, how these applications are coming across within the IRS, and who's it going to be going to. So we've come up with different people that are supposed to be getting these. To make sure that they're getting it the correct ways, we've made sure that it's redundant. So what that means is we have two different commuting centers that we're actually sending these events to. So when one of the sites are down, we actually have an immediate goes automatically to the other site. So same instance, it'll automatically take over and it goes across with the network. So the end users will never see a notification that they're not going to be seeing. So that's a site understanding that we actually need to make sure that everything is balanced. So as we're actually looking at that, we actually have the different ways of that we're actually doing this. So when a device comes from a switch, we send it over like a trap over to NNM, which is Network Node Manager. That event actually goes over to the HP Operations Manager. Then we get it into Derdack. Now, when it goes into Derdack, here's another process where we're actually sending it. Does it need to go into an email? Or does it go into Cisco voice message where these events are, if they're critical, they're going to go into a call manager where it's going to call the end user. So that's where you need to make sure that how are these events coming across? Are they critical? Are they just awareness? Or how they different understanding where they're needed? Next part we're going to be talking about is alerting at the IRS from the NMCC. So the main thing is how is it high availability and how's that going to be coming across? So as I stated a little earlier, we have two data computer centers that we've actually located. One in Tennessee. The other one is in Martinsburg. So, like I said earlier, when we lose a site, we actually have it automatically going to the next data center, and where we'll get alerted that one of the sites went down. We need to work on it to get it back up and running. So this is part of what they call an HA solution, and we've made sure that it's aware, and the system administrators know exactly what's going on and are able to work on it immediately to get the other sites balanced. Next part we're going to get into is the alerting at the IRS. As I stated, that we're going to be doing calls, and then we're also doing two-way alerting within emails. So how is this set up? So we actually have a group that's what we call is the ITOC. So ITOC group uses all of our callouts. So that means any P1 tickets, P2 tickets that are mandatory, they're going to be called out, and the end users will get a notification through the voice. And then we actually have multiple channels that we've actually set up within Derdack that actually will call out automatically through our call manager, where actually over as you can see on the slide, you got over 3,000 of our 20,000 users are actually able to get these notifications. With that being said, we've actually set up a different parameter how it automatically goes out to the different users, and they're able to get the events that they need to be on the call at this particular time. Now we've come into the outages, when there's critical events, notifications, emails that are going to be sent out. Now, these are the different groups that we've had to set up within Derdack to get this. Now, you have HP operations managers sends those feeds over to Derdack. Now, when we get those feeds, we actually know that there's a particular policy that we've actually set up. When these events come into operations manager, they're going to identify the groups that are associated with them and send it to the appropriate groups for those particular alerts. That being said, you don't want these alerts going out to end users that'll never know. This is like, why am I getting these, or what am I going to do with this? So you want to make sure it's going to the correct groups, the correct users, so they have an understanding that these are not bogus emails or something that they'll never want to see. So now the other part that you want to make sure that how the conditions are set up. When you say the conditions, there's different parameters that they want to see. With that being said, here's the different parameters. All the different parameters that we actually can set up within the alerts, where you can actually send it to the end users. And also, where we actually have on the subject line is bold understanding of this is actually what's happening. So they have an understanding, even without opening up the actual email, they can get right to the device and be able to identify and work on the system when it's needed. The next part, we're going to get into the Derdack Enterprise Alert that we're actually seeing within Operations Manager. What's the integration for using Operations Manager? As you can see, within Derdack, there's different layers. You have different third-party tools that you can actually use. A few of the different tools that we actually can use is our Network Node Manager, and we actually have Operations Manager, and then we also have Kazam, which is the Service Manager. So this, where we're actually getting Network Node Manager, goes right into Operations Manager, then flows into our Derdack, where we're getting those alerts. And then they're identified and progressed within the system, and we're getting those alerts, and it flows through the process. The other part that we're actually implemented within the system, which goes directly to Network Node Manager, is our orchestrator, is the operations orchestrator. And what that does, it gives us a better understanding of what those events are. So now what we were trying to do is enterprise alerts. Here's the integration where we can identify and get the specific data that is needed for these alerts. So when you have the incoming events, you want to make sure that the notifications are going out. So when you get a new event, are they critical? So where we've actually said it, we don't want warnings, we don't want understanding. We want to make sure these people are getting, there's a critical event. This is going to cause an issue with your system. So we set that up within the operations manager, where those go into the different groups and identifies where they're actually going to. The other part where what you can do is when they actually closed, you can actually close that event also within Derdack by the update. When it comes in back in through Operations Manager, you can close those events. So this way, it's been resolved, it's now closed. So now, like I said earlier, we're getting a lot of these different alerts from Network Node Manager, especially like BGP alerts. So we've actually had to set up, because there's different parameters. People are looking for different things that are coming in within the system. So what we wanted to make sure that the different groups are getting what they're looking for, how they're getting it, and what they actually want before there's an issue. But the main thing is what we're actually able to do within Derdack is we're able to identify exactly what is needed and how it's actually being addressed within the system. So now we're going to get into a little bit more on the extraction of the data. So here's a parameter where it actually shows you the different outlays of the event. So it shows the where it came from, how it was addressed. Did it come through a trap? Did it come directly to the operations manager? How is that actually being relevant to the end user? So this is where we wanted to make sure that the alerts were being addressed and they were getting identified within the end users. Now, this gives you a better understanding of when the events come in. Like I said earlier, you get a big subject line. I know exactly what the issue is, and I know which device that is associated, especially when it's come across with for what it's one of my systems that I'm required to make sure is up at all times, and make sure that we're able to identify and give the information and address what the issues are. So this is one of the biggest issues that a lot of the customers were complaining, where that they were always having to open up. So we've made it a little bit bigger within the subject line, exactly what the issue is and how we're able to satisfy the customer of what they're actually looking for. So with that also being said, there's actually different third-party integrations that we're able to use. But what we're actually doing is all the different understanding of the event. What part of the event do we really need to give to the end users? What are they looking for, and what do they want to see within those events? So we can actually draw those particular events out of the message and say, this is where it's happening, this is what's going on, and how you can actually resolve it. So the end user is able to give a better understanding of what the circumstance or what the problem is with before there's a bigger problem and they're able to address. Now we're going to get into alerting with the NMCC, the notification results and the reports that we come back within the results. So one thing that you really want to know is, did I get what I was supposed to get? I maybe sound a little different, but that's the main process. Is like you want to make sure that you're getting everything, and also making from us as an administrator, you want to make sure that you're sending all the information that is supposed to be needed to the end user. Because if they're not getting their what they're needing, then you're not doing your job. And that's not something that we want to be having within the end users, having them to complain that they're not getting what they're supposed to get. So with that being said, so the end user actually can actually validate, hey, what kind of events did I get last week compared to this week? Has it made any difference? Am I still getting the same amount of events coming across? Has it lowered? Are we getting more? So this is another report we can actually identify the different trends of the alerts that I'm getting for my project, or what is associated for my group. Now you want to get an understanding of the message. So now what I'm saying is the messages. So now remember I told you there's calls, there's different emails, and different threads that we're actually able to identify. So we want to know if the calls were failed, that were sent out. We're able to identify that within a different group where it's baselined. This is the amount of people that failed to answer their phones, or how many people that it was delivered to successfully. Has it changed within the timeline? Is it better? Is it at a particular time that they're not getting it? So these are different kind of things that you can actually give your upper management and give an understanding of how this is being addressed. So, like I said, a lot of the things that we actually are doing right now is within our operations manager, network node manager, and operations orchestrator. The other thing that we've actually started to do is use Kazam, which is our which is service manager. So that is scheduled that we're actually starting to do that for our P1 tickets or P2 tickets are going to be addressed automatically, send out to the end users. We're trying to do this slowly, so we're not being going into there and giving a lot of events within the calls and stuff like that. So we want to make sure the tickets are being addressed. Not only that, but you also want to make sure when you bring this up that you're able to close those events. So that's the other part that we're using Operation Orchestrator to do also. So when we see that, it's actually ending within the system, and we're able to see that. Well, thank you everybody for joining the ITOM Vivid. And if you have any questions, we'll be addressing this afterwards. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.